How often have you told yourself, I'm going to journal more, and you just don't? Maybe you write a couple of entries and lose motivation by the third day. You lose the urge to make it a priority and the cycle continues. But I have been doing this for some 16 years, and if you have always wanted to journal more, I'm hoping this little video will offer more insight into general motivations for journaling, as well as some patterns and benefits I've noticed from doing this so often. Though I journal relatively consistently, there was a period of time where my entries were sparse, like 20 pages in the span of a year and a half. I was not myself during this period of time. I was very depressed, and looking back, I was in denial about the circumstances of my life. Journaling generally forces you to have more accountability in life, and that was not something I was ready to do at the time, which explains the bulk of why I didn't journal as much. I was finishing college online and giving my last stretch of effort in a stale, unchanging relationship. After crawling through the finish line of graduation, leaving said relationship, and embarking on my healing, I finally realized I had not journaled very much. So, I made the decision to treat myself to consistent journaling, back to a point where it would become something I regularly looked forward to. By August, I was back to regularly writing, and here we are again in August. 1 year of writing while at work, at cafes, during hikes, and so on. In any case, here are a few kept and changed journaling habits that I've noticed since August of last year. For starters, there's usually a cup of coffee or hot tea involved, depending on the time of day, and it is something I look forward to, but also something I low-key rely on. The journaling, I mean, and maybe the coffee too. There is seemingly endless value to just allowing yourself to sit, develop, and fully articulate your thoughts and feelings on paper. So, if there is an issue at hand, a life curveball, a sudden amount of stress, I journal. I'll set aside time and do it as soon as I've allowed myself to feel and sit with some of my emotions. And generally, I'll write it out before I start to talk it out with people. It's oftentimes my way of figuring problems out, or at least part of my process and the many steps of working through problems. It's quite meditative for me, and I'll admit there's a sense of satisfaction behind the actual penmanship. The satisfaction of filling up a blank page with dark ink. In this last year of journaling, I also decided to challenge myself to be completely honest on paper. Before this year, when it came to journaling, I would use euphemisms, I would sugarcoat, and I just wouldn't be completely honest on paper. The reason I would hold back is because I would think, well, what if somebody reads this? I realized that's actually quite silly, and in forcing myself to not express my full thoughts on paper, I was potentially limiting the amount of benefits I could get from journaling. If push comes to shove and someone decides to cross boundaries and read my private writings, that's a fault on their end, and life simply goes on for me. No need to feel shame or fault in writing out my full thoughts. So I'm being honest on paper now, and it's quite nice. It feels like I'm honoring my thoughts and feelings to a complete extent. Journaling is also just a naturally slow process. While that's not new information, it's still important to its value. You can go ahead and type out entries, or even do voice entries. But I think having to physically write out your thoughts forces you to slow down, and it gives you time to think and process everything word by word. The slow nature of journaling may be irritating at first, but it's a practice in patience, and most of us could use a little more patience with ourselves or with others. Journaling. I 100% recommend it. If you maybe feel lost on figuring out the best way for you to journal, definitely just try something out. For example, writing out 1 or 2 sentences of something you are grateful for before pulling out your phone for the day. Finding a prompt-based daily journal for yourself, or just writing out your goals. So long as you are trying something, chances are you'll run into a journaling method that actually works for you. I personally know a lot of people who journal, but when they journal, they strictly use it to list out goals, write updates, and plan out their days and weeks. While it is great to be practical, I think people should challenge themselves to discuss their personal thoughts, emotions, and feelings on paper. Because being able to accept all 3 of those is only going to strengthen your foundation as an individual, and probably increase the odds of you actually achieving those more objective, work-based goals. My foot's cramping. Get a little uncomfortable. Tap into those emotions. Regardless, if you're wanting to commit to journaling for yourself, whether for career or personal reasons, give yourself the luxury to try it. This last year has been quite nice, given that I have been enjoying and maintaining a healthy state of mind. It's possible that keeping my practice of journaling and allowing myself to be honest and blatant on paper has played a role in maintaining my overall health. It's one of the first times I've also been able to set, witness, and record big manifestations. For example, I had a goal to find my own place by spring of 2022, and I ended up moving on the exact week I had projected 7 months before. Manifesting, writing, and therefore adding permanence to goals and visions like these stirs along a steady sense of accountability and want for these goals to actually happen. At the end of the day, whether you're wanting more accountability for your own life, wanting an outlet to help understand and put to words complex problems and emotions, or you're wanting to challenge yourself to slow down and be honest, journaling may very well be a good way to go. Seriously, try journaling. It might help you out.